If you're a service provider and you are running AI in your business and you've only got one Claude project for everything, then I am sorry to tell you this, but you are doing it wrong. The whole point of a project is to create separation. Each individual one will have a dedicated workspace. It will have its own brain, its own knowledge, its own purpose. So trying to run content, ads, sales, onboarding, and reporting through one single project is the same as trying to run all of those single things through one single person in your team. It doesn't work, and the work will degrade over time. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the top 10 projects that I would recommend for every service provider in terms of what you should be running. And by the end of it, you will have a clear blueprint on the AI infrastructure that will support your entire business on an easy level for not just content, but the actual whole thing for multiple different areas of your company. So these will compound, and each one will basically strengthen, and they will basically work into working with each other. And I'll get to that point at the end. So let's just get straight into it. So project number one is the baseline structure. So it's all about offer architecture and basically your positioning, because it's the most important starting point for what you need to do with your business. So this is basically the foundation that absolutely everything will hang on, because it is what will create the shape and size and arrowhead to what you are doing across every single avenue of your business. So this is almost like your single source of truth, basically. So this is where we're looking at your ICP, your pricing tiers, your delivery, the differentiators, the language that you are going to use, and everything that you are going to use to actually take your offer to market. So without this lockdown, every other project will basically produce a inconsistent output, and the content engine will just write random stuff. These sales projects will basically just come from just randomly drifted information which doesn't have no alignment, and the onboarding docs will just have complete untrue information. Like, everything always comes back down to your offer every single time. So build this first and then revisit it every quarter, because it will give you the new and updated IP that you can actually use for training all the rest of your actual projects. So next up from that point is project number two, and that is your content engine. So this is where we're going to be looking at production and distribution. In essence, there's just one single system to keep it simple. I do break this up with what the SOP that I give to clients, but for the purpose of this video, let's keep it all in the same spot. Ideation, scripting, production, editing, publishing, repurposing, all inside one single project, right? So your content calendar, your hook libraries, your evergreen content topic banks, your platform repurposing, your long form to short form, your carousels, your emails, your LinkedIn posts, and everything, right? Rather than having to start from scratch each time, just goes all into this independent workspace, right? So the goal here is to look at consistent output that isn't dependent on you being switched on to have to manually do this every single time. So once you've built out your content engine once, all you need to do from that point is feed it, and it will produce back to back. Project number three is looking at lead magnets and top of funnel assets. So this is basically where we're going to be looking at entry level for people who in essence aren't ready to buy yet coming into your actual services. So this is going to be a load of high quality assets for the top of funnel, like PDFs, mini courses, templates, diagnostics, and each one mapped out to a different point of actual awareness. So this is in essence where we are going to look at attracting a cold audience with the actual type of assets that they are going to opt into, where you're going to be looking at converting them to a point where they are actually ready to buy. So the trick here is to make these as aligned as humanly possible to the actual ICP that you've done in project one, right? And once you have built out not only the lead magnets, you are going to get that more trained in that project space, but you can actually feed it in the campaign information in terms of what actually got the highest level opt-in rate and also conversion from that point. Project number four is going to be looking at a paid acquisition playbook. So this is where you're going to be looking at your almost follower acquisition system. You can be looking at CPF thresholds. You can be looking at creative testing protocols. You can look at scaling, kill, watch, logic. You can add weekly review cadence into it. You can add creative briefs into it. So if you are running meta ads, this is where you can look at designing your top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel structures. You can also feed it live data sheets to basically tell you which ones that you need to kill, what creatives need to then basically be recreated from that point. So the hard part of this basically isn't actually building it once, it's keeping it living, right? So the platform will shift and change every single week, as we know with meta ads. So your audience will change. So you need to make sure that with this project and other ones, you are constantly updating it with the feedback and data that you are getting. Project number 5 is going to be DM and inbound conversion systems. So this is simple, straight to the point, scripts, frameworks, templates, right? How are you going to be qualifying your inbound DMs? How are you going to handle the most common objections? How are you going to reduce friction on the actual call booking? How are you going to follow up if they don't actually book on the first message? And basically all we're looking from this point is to build a converting asset to basically take a DM through to a book call rather than just winging it each time. And you can input and screenshot actual conversations into that as well, alongside building out new scripts based on feedback. You can build a DM tracker in there, you can build out measurement layers, you can basically build out your playbooks across the board for everything to do with DMs. Project number 6 from that point is looking at a sales conversion system. So this is where most service providers will leak the most amount of revenue without actually realizing. So you need to make sure that you've got call structures, you've got qualification frameworks, you've got questions and objection libraries, you've got transcript analyzers for reviewing the actual sales calls. You can be pulling the transcripts from sales calls to then turn it into content topics and emails. You can look at basically assessing the actual skills of yourself or a closer on the actual sales call based on what's been said on the transcript. You can do a crazy amount of stuff in this project, right? So the bigger point of this is because sales will then become a teachable asset, right? Anyone at any level can simply get better by constantly refining and inputting their transcripts into that project, and it is crazy what you can do with it. Project number 7 is going to be looking at CRM and pipeline management. So this is basically where you can build out your actual pipeline with almost like definitive stages. So what every lead in the process will experience, what type of automated follow-ups that you need in place, what do you need for no-shows, what do you need for on-sold leads, and conversion rate reporting basically at each individual stage, especially if you connect it up. And a lot of service providers will think that they are leaking revenue at the sales call, and they're not in any way, shape or form, right? They're leaking it at the gaps between the stages. So the no-shows, the people who didn't get followed up, the unsold lead who went cold and didn't get any type of follow-up after that point, the application that had to sit there before someone had to reach out. This is basically a project that will look at closing the gaps, right? It's not about sexy, it's about where the money actually is. Project number 8 is going to be the nurturing elements from that point. So you've got email nurtures, you've got sequence libraries, so you've got reusable ones, you've got evergreen ones, you've got email retargeting campaigns, you've got stuff that can trigger based on automations, you've got welcome sequences, you've got post lead management nurture sequences, you've got application follow-ups, no-show recovery, post-sale onboarding. You can do everything inside of these projects, and you might be looking at this thinking, well, I ain't got a clue what you're even talking about. Well, you've got a project there. You can literally ask and turn around and say, what is every single email nurturing sequence and follow-up system that I need based on what I am currently doing with my funnel and with my offer at the moment to be built around the ICP of the person that I am targeting. That's how simple it is. So most service providers have 1 or 2 sequences that they have basically cobbed together a few years ago. And if you build this properly, I swear to God, you will not believe the level of input that you will get in response from your audience. Project number 9 is going to be looking at the aftermath of that. So that's going to be client onboarding and delivery. So this is where you can document your client journey to basically a sale to a direct result. So you're going to be looking at welcome materials, you've got milestone planning, you have got check-in cadence, you have got offboarding, you've got renewals, you've got touch points. And this is basically, the project that will enable you to reduce churn. So improve results, make the business deliverables by people who are potentially aren't even you, so you don't need to be involved because you've trained that project space properly. And if you ever want to basically scale past yourself, then this is the project that is going to enable you to get to that point, because every single bit is going to be documented and you are no longer the bottleneck of what you are doing. And then finally from that point, as a baseline minimum, is going to be the operational dashboard and KPI systems and scorecards. So you've got weekly scorecards that you can be running with yourself or even with your team. You have got processing leads, applications, calls booked, show up rate, you've got close rate, you've got cash collected, you've got churn, you've got NPS. And these are basically the things that are going to actually predict whether the business is healthy or if you are just running it based on vanity metrics alone, based on a few followers on social media. Not just followers, this is about getting you to a point of saying, am I profitable? Am I scaling? Are the numbers lining up? Where can I fill the gaps to scale to another level? And then without that, you're running blind. So it's such an important project. And I have put it the last one, but I'd actually probably put that as number 1. So the order in which you do this is really, really important. Not even just for good practice, but just for you to slowly start to understand this. So when I want to come onto here, the reason that I go for project 1 first, is offer architecture, because nothing makes sense without that first, And once you've got sense of that, then you can move on to your content, which is project number 2 in the content engine, because that's going to enable you to get more visible to the people that you're trying to serve. And then from that point, you've got the actual, I've put third, which is going to be the project 10, but I'm going to put it on last on the list, KPI scorecard system, I'd have that in coming in quite early. And after that, then I would probably look at basically building a project based on what is going to match your individual needs or where your actual problems are lying at the moment. So, for example, you may be smashing it on ads, but your emails are breaking down, or your DMs are smashing it, but your ads aren't performing. So once you've got to that point of like offer architecture, ICP, positioning, you have then got your content engine sorted and you've got your weekly KPI tracking and numbers and systems in place. Then from that point, all I will do is look at the 7 other projects and then start making decisions based on where your actual problems are currently in your business, rather than just adding these on just for the sake of it. Like, you don't need to build all of 10 of them per month. You can do them nice and slowly, take your time. Remember, the most important thing to this is to compound information over time. So if you look at any of my other YouTube videos, it's the first thing that I say all the time. This project, once it's set up, it is nothingness, right? The more that you use it, the more that you input it, the more that you add to it, the more context that it will generate and the better that it will become. It is a living organism. It is like having a team member. You have to communicate with a team member. You have to support a team member. You have to give a team member more guidance. It is literally the epitome of the exact same situation with this one. So that's where I'd start. And again, guys, I have the copy and paste SOP systems, not only for 10 projects, but over 30 to 40 projects, all the co-work systems for Claude, multiple different other AI systems. If you're at this point now where you're really starting to see and open your eyes to what is actually happening within the business at the moment, and marketplace and the world in general. And I would love to see you inside my program at some point. And if you're not subscribing, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.